How's everybody doing? The Bearded Tog, Adam Mason here. Guys, this episode is incredible. Jasmine Star is laying it down and talking about job transitions, and she is absolutely incredible. Super, super, super fun. One word of note before we get to the episode. We are officially, not officially, but officially, we are doing long-term mentorship at this moment. It's usually 6 months to 1 year right now, and it's absolutely incredible. We have 3 people signed up already, and guys, it's going to be awesome. Right now, you can still get in. Shoot me an email, thebeardedtog@gmail.com, and I would love to tell you more about it. It's going to be awesome just to kind of be with other photographers or business owners along the way and their journey into becoming more successful. We've already seen people go from $8,000 to $30,000 in revenue from 1 year to the year they got mentorship. So we are killing it, and we're super excited. But anyway, I want to talk about this episode with Jasmine Star. She's talking about her history. She's talking about how she pivoted from being a successful, like she got to the top of where most wedding photographers want to be. And even after she stopped and pivoted, still had offers that are amazing. And she said, you know what? Passion overrules, everything here. And so I loved her passion here in this episode, and I love what she's talking about. So without any further ado, here is Jasmine Star. Hey, Jasmine, how's it going?
It's going well. How are you today?
Good. It's really good to hear from you because I think, honestly, you've been a huge photographer influence in my life from back in the day, from the Restart Facebook group and a few other things.
We go way back, homie. We go way back. This is amazing.
Exactly. I was like, we have to have Jasmine on. And I feel, the main conversation here is kind of about your transition. Not a huge transition, but, well, maybe it's huge for you, obviously, but transitioning from this, who I know as a wedding photographer, to a brand and marketing specialist, right? That's crazy.
I know. It's been an adventure.
So tell me a little bit more about that. I want to get started because I know you don't have much time. Tell me a little bit more about that process. How long were you a wedding photographer? How'd you get into that? And then what was the shift?
So, are we starting? Are we officially ready to go?
You were so good. I was like, let's just go for it.
This is fantastic. I love it. I love the candor. I love just walking in and 100% being myself. So I was a wedding photographer for 12 years, and they were some of the best 12 years of my life. They changed me as a person. They changed me as a business owner. They changed me as a family member. I became a lot more sensitive to what it really means to show up and provide for your family, both your immediate and then extended. And it was just one of the best experiences. And I wanted to ensure that it remained one of the best experiences. And I think that when you have the possibility of driving something into the ground, I once heard a quote say, the way that you end an experience is the way that you remember an experience. And they were talking in regards to a vacation. So you always want to make sure that you do something really great at the end of your vacation, because that's the way that your brain processes the experience in its totality. And I also started watching people kind of transition out of industries. And I know it probably sounds silly, but like Jay-Z and Dave Chappelle, it's like when people were unexpected, when they were kind of, for all intents and purposes, I'll just be really candid, at the top of their game, what does it mean for them to say publicly, I'm transitioning, or I'm done. Like, I came what I did to do, and I watched that, and it inspired me. I didn't know if I had the chutzpah or the cojones to do it myself, and it sort of happened over a 2 to 2.5 year process.
Wow, you're totally right, though. I think people always talk about athletes in this way, maybe because it's something like we see them in theory at their peak, which even as a wedding photographer, it's not like your audience was watching you at every wedding going, I wonder if Jasmine wants to do something else, whereas like LeBron James, or he's not a great example, but other athletes where, towards the end of their career, it's always going to feel better if they end it quicker rather than them having like the sad slop into the gum.
Right. I couldn't agree more.
Yeah. Did you know that you were going to make that transition, say, in year 6, or were there inklings along the way? Like, I guess for such a long career, there's so many new wedding photographers out in the world and just new photographers. I'm sure the first few years you're figuring things out. And then was there a stride, and then you're hitting your stride and you're like, okay, this is too easy for me, or this is, like, what was the feeling maybe per se, rather than not just the Dave Chappelle, Jay-Z feeling, but like, what was that like creeping in for you, where you're like, oh, I'm like hungry for something else?
I think probably around year 10, it became pronounced when, unbeknownst to me, I think that as I get older, I could look back at particular instances in my life and identify, oh, that's why I like the climb. I like the figuring out. I feel like I'm most alive when the odds are stacked against me. I feel like I'm most hungry when I can look at other things that are just too big and impossible and say, I think I can do that. Like, or at least let me just try. And I got to a point in my career to where, and I have to preface this, Adam, because I think it's probably really difficult for many people listening and maybe have a preconceived notion of what it means to listen to me say this, because I know what it feels like to not have any customers emailing or calling. I know what it feels like to get one wedding and then it goes bad and then you just think I'm doomed. I have no other way out. I know what it feels like every single season to wonder, well, this year we made it, but crap, next year are we going to make it? Like, I know all of those feelings. I've gone through that. And to those people who are in that right now, I say I identify, I empathize, and I sympathize. Now, if you have the luxury to move past those really tough first 3-4 years, then you kind of get into a space of, I made it. I have a name. I can do this. How can I expand? And then you hit another like 3 to 4 years when you're expanding, and then you start testing the waters with other things. At least this was the path that I ended up taking. I started teaching other photographers. I had these really great opportunities to collaborate with major large organizations to start disseminating information and teaching people how to run a business, in addition to previous years of teaching people how to use a camera. And so once you kind of get into your industry and you go up this vertical, like this ascension model between newbie to professional to seasoned professional to industry leader, there comes a point in time where you know all of the magazine editors by name. You've collaborated, you commissioned, your work is featured, you travel the world, you have a very predictable income. And then all of a sudden you realize this is it. We have businesses that aren't scalable because of the services we provide are dependent on us. And I saw my life, and it was a good life, and it was a great life, and it was a blessed life. But I don't think that I was called to live a comfortable life. I was called to do big things in the world. Now, here's the thing. Nothing is wrong with living a comfortable life. I want people to say, like, I love the fact that I get to bring in this income. My family is taken care of. My car is paid. Like, I work these weekends and I'm good. I love that. That's amazing. It just wasn't my path. And I started getting that itch of looking around and saying, this is it. Like, I get paid a lot of money. I get to travel the world, but I can't grow any more than this.
Totally. And there's just like that once we use the term like hungry, but it's like you were full then. Like you had fulfilled essentially, or at least I'm guessing you had fulfilled that, at least that original photography calling, if you will. And it's like, no, I'm satisfied. Like, okay, what is that next thing? Like I can't have any more of this, whatever your favorite dish is. I'm a gluten-free vegetarian, so I'm really boring. I can't have enough of this kale salad. I probably should be very clear, and it's something that I'm working on the outward branding of it, because I know that when I decided to pivot, I made a very hard right turn, but I was satiated. I was never full. I don't think you can ever be full from something you love. You can always find a little room in your belly for what, brings you happiness. True. And so I feel like I was satiated with wedding photography, but I was never full or close to being full with photography. I just wanted to use my photography in a different capacity. And so when I had the chance to pivot and help business owners grow a business instead of just photographers growing a business, then the entire game changed me, because it went from a single lane highway to like an 87 lane highway. We were on the freaking Autobahn. So it was great. That's awesome. So what was that, what was that conversation like with your husband or your family? And then like, totally get as practical as you would like to share. Did you say, all right, we need to start new bank accounts, or we need to kind of like rearrange our contracts? And, did you take one client on at a time for social media? And obviously you had an audience, so you could, say, hey guys, I'm launching this thing. If you're interested, come on board. But, what were
Oh my gosh, Adam, it was nothing like that. It was it was just like, I wish I could just say, I was like, well, technically we had our lawyer come in, we drafted up 18 contracts. No, it was a hot mess. Like the thing was, I firmly believe that like what you put your mind out to and intention, and people would ask, it's such a hard question to answer, and you always feel so stupid because you're like, whatever you say just sounds like ridiculous. And so people would say, Jasmine, if you could wake up and do what you want to do for the rest of your life, or like what in your perfect world, like what are you doing? And I could never utter it out loud because it just didn't exist. And I said, well, if I could wake up every day, and if I could shoot, and if I could write, and if I can empower business owners, and like essentially, ultimately, I'm not there yet, but in my mind, create a digital like network for people to be empowered to build their businesses. Like I basically, in a dream world, want to be like an online Oprah where people go to for resources in regards to building their business, but arranging their life and setting like big goals. I'm nowhere near that, but I can say that in this dream world, when I literally drafted up my dream day, this is an exercise that I beg people to do. It's literally my dream day. And I say, when I wake up, and then it's like blank. And then how do I spend my morning? And I just filled in everything. Like I wake up next to my husband and my dog with the sun shining in the windows. I raise my day with sunrise, and I pray and I meditate and I read and I have a slow morning and I make a green juice and then I walk my dog. I mean, it's literally granular. It's the minutia of how do I want to spend my days? I make time for yoga, and I write and I communicate and I connect with people online and I take photos. I literally list out this whole day. And at the end, I included a dinner with friends and family because I needed to have some type of work-life balance that was lacking in my life. And when I woke up today, I had just come off an Instagram challenge with tens of thousands of people. I went and I practiced yoga. I'm having dinner with my parents tonight. I walk my dog. I woke up next to my husband. And I think to myself, though we still struggle, and those are a lot of things that are still out looming, I'm living my best day. And it was the minute that I put down what I wanted to do that it actually came to fruition. And for so long, people were just like, oh, well, how did you start? And the answer was, I never put it out. It just came to me. People kept on asking. Like when they saw me working with photographers, like Adam, I know you and I, like you told me that our paths crossed because of Restart.
Yeah.
And Restart was a very, very specific, it was a makeover show for photographers. And we did it in a month, and it was really, really, really condensed, and it was crazy, and it was a great experience. But a lot of other entrepreneurs outside of photographers were watching that. And as I continued creating content online for how to run a better photography business, people were taking my content and saying, oh, it works for me as a graphic designer. Or it works for me as I sell essential oils. It works for me. I'm a fitness professional. And people started asking if I would do consultations, or if I would teach courses, if there was like these, entrepreneur events. They're like, can you come talk about what you talk about, but make it not about photography? And all of a sudden I kept on saying no, because of the imposter syndrome. Like, well, I can't, it works for photographers, but is it going to really work for real estate agents, And then all of a sudden, when I just opened up my palms and said, I'm going to try it. I'm going to try it. I'm going to see what it does. And I gave myself a year. And then the first year, and this is all behind the scenes, while I was balancing speaking, teaching, consulting, I was still outward facing wedding photographer. And then that year went pretty good. It was promising. And I was like, okay, but we literally had no life. We were working, when I say we, it's my husband and I, he's my business partner. We were just working all day, every day. We had 2 full-time careers. And then the second year, I always had this dream that I would never want to transition away from something until we felt financially responsible to do it, which is what I tell people all the time. I didn't want to take out a loan. I wanted to make sure that it was a calculated risk. And so for that second year that I was balancing 2 careers, everything I made, because for the first year I was making pennies. I was like, does this work? I didn't want to overcharge somebody and not deliver.
Sure.
And so then the second year we really came in and built a financial structure of what it means for me to consult, because we already had testimonials, proof in the pudding. I became a lot more confident. And then all the money that I made that year from our side hustle, consulting, went into a savings account. So much so that we banked our money from weddings, which was lucrative. We had our consulting. And then by the time I was going to transition into the third year, I said, like, I was so tired and I was so stressed. And I was like, I want to take a risk. Like, I think I'm ready. And so in 2016, in November 2016, I had made the decision that I wasn't going to book for all of 2017. I was like, it's just a sabbatical. Like, I'm just going to take a break and I'm going to come back to wedding photography. I'm going to I built it up once before and I can build it up once again. I just need a year to really focus on one thing. Like Taylor Swift said, when you chase two rabbits, you lose them both. And I read that in 2016. I was like, man, I'm chasing two rabbits right now. So focused on one, doubled down in 2017. And it was life-changing. All of a sudden I thought, oh my God, I'm on my path. And I ended photography the way I wanted to end it. Like, I had great clients and it was such a great experience. And I didn't have to have this big teary debut. I'm never coming back. It was it was just kind of like, this is life. Let's go. Let's have fun. And unbeknownst to me, and yes, it's awkward making kind of like a public pivot. And I slowly started doing that over the 12 months that I was doing the side hustle and photography. That's the second year, kind of like transitioning between the two. And then in 2017, made a hard pivot to just be posting like business related marketing, digital content strategy stuff. And people were kind of like, hey, what's going on with you? And I kind of I wasn't sure if I was not going to go back, So I was like, I don't want to say I'm done. And then all of a sudden be like, I got to go back to my wedding career. So I just kind of like kept it under the radar, and that's where it still is today. And I still get so many wedding inquiries, which is a compliment, But I think, we had our run and it was great. And I look back with it fondly.
That is incredible. You know how often those venues update their sites, which is not often at all. And you're probably still getting leads and referrals, and you're just like, what? I'm not on there. That's incredible.
Yeah.
So have you shot a wedding since then? Since like the end of 2016?
No. And oh my gosh. Okay. I don't even know why I'm sharing this story. Feel free to edit it out. My husband, who's like a consummate professional and hustler, he's just like, Jasmine, he's like, just keep an open mind. Like, you never know. Like, somebody might come up and just say like carte blanche, check blank, like shoot it. And I was just like, I need to focus. Like, I made the commitment in 2017 to really be focused. And the minute I just depart from that, then I'm no longer walking in integrity. Because if I told other people I'm not shooting their wedding and then they see me shoot a wedding, it will leave a bad taste, and that's my brand. So of course, because you put something out into the universe tries to test you. So we had clients who we adored. Their family are just amazing people from New York, and they just throw over the top extravagant weddings, and they're the salt of the earth. Love them. Like, they shower you with gifts and they give you a great tip, and then they invite you on their vacations. Like, really one of those families. Connected with them. Amazing. So there's two girls in the family. We shot the first wedding of the older daughter. And then obviously, of course, January 2017, I get an email from the mom being like, Jasmine, we're ready. Our second daughter is all of that. So it's the dad, the mom, and the two sisters are all CC'd on that email because it's a family affair. They're Italian. They do everything together. And I was like, oh. And so then I had to send an email. And I was just like, I'm so sorry. I'm not shooting weddings this year. Here are a list of amazing photographers who I would have shoot my wedding. They're going to take great care of you. And she emails back and forth. And I kept on saying, like, no, I'm so sorry. Like, forgive me. This is just a decision that I've made. And she's like, Jasmine, I have a blank check. Write your number. And I turned to my husband and I was just like, he's like, come on, Jasmine. He's like, come on. He's like, we don't even have to put it on social media. Like, you could do this because you love them. And in the minute, like, it was such a test. And then I knew where my heart was, because what happens is we book so far in advance. So she wanted to book me 9 months in advance for the wedding. And I told my husband, I don't know where I'm going to be in 9 months. That's the trick when you're starting a new business. And if I become tethered, so the wedding was going to be in Santa Barbara. I'm like, if I become tethered to traveling to Santa Barbara, and they do these big 3-day like events, and I was like, they're going to want me all 3 days. It's going to require us to travel. And all of a sudden, this just doesn't become a wedding. It becomes a 5-day event away from a business that I'm trying to build. And so I said no. And of course, I said no. And then they send me a dozen roses. And they're like, we love you. We wish you all the best, which made me feel awful. But at the end of the day, when September came around, I was working on a brand new project that I launched that became such a pivotal thing in our business. And I looked at my husband, I said, this is why. Like, this is why I had to say no, because we had this big project with this opportunity that I would have had to say no to. Because when you say yes to something, you say no to something else. And so in 2017, I called it my year of no. Like Shonda Rhimes has year of yes, and I was just like, year of no, I'm focusing.
No, that's totally right. I was just talking to, actually, we have like a tiny, not as big as the old Jasmine Star Facebook groups, very tiny, intimate Bearded Tog Facebook group. But I was just talking to people last night, and I was just, we're going through a season where we're super busy and we just bought a house, and good things are happening. And, I had to say no to some gigs of clients that I had worked with a bunch, some corporate clients, some just very ideal clients even, just to keep my sanity and just to keep my focus, kind of like you said. And I'm just like, guys, if you're feeling stressed out, say no. You get an email that makes you feel weird, say no. If you get an email that feels kind of fishy, wait a day, say no. Like, just kind of walking through, like, it feels powerful, and it's hard because, we want to provide, right? And we want to do these things that are proper. But something I thought about when you're telling me that story just now is, even if, that's like as close to ideal situation, like 5 years ago, Jasmine would have been praying for that particular wedding and hoping for that particular situation. Even in the prime situation, passion overrules. And your new passion was like, all right, I'm taking this. We're not going to do that. We're taking you into the new venture. And that's how it's real. It's like, I'm trying to think of a good analogy, but the only one I thought of was like, maybe you're walking by non-gluten-free pizza and you're like, no, even though you look great, it's not the right time. And the pizza's like, write a blank check. And you're like, no. But it's, like that's real passion too. I think a lot of people would be tempted. And two, like your husband said, it was a great opportunity, but it wasn't who you were anymore. And that's okay.
Absolutely. And I think it's important for people to give themselves the permission to say what's okay, what's not okay, and to trust their intuition. And I think that the longer you're in business, you become more in tuned to truly listening to your gut. Like, I feel like every time I've trusted my gut, even if I was like unsure and I was shaky, but I'm like, no, this isn't right, or this is amazing, like I'm going to double down. It proved right. And when I didn't listen to my gut, when I saw they weren't red flags, they were like pink flags. When I saw the pink flags and I ignored them, that is when like just the decisions were wrong.
Right. Totally. So you mentioned something about the struggles kind of in 2016, and we just talked about kind of like an emotional struggle, but you've been in business for a long time and been at least around the overarching, photography industry for a long time. Like, what were some of your struggles from then and now? And then how have those changed along the way? I feel like, first year Jasmine problems, seventh year Jasmine would laugh at, be like, girl, you have no idea. That is not a problem. Just wait till you get to year 7. Like, what were some of those struggles, and like, how have they changed over the years for you?
Well, I think year 1 struggles for any entrepreneur are the same. It's, how am I going to make money? Like, are people going to buy what I'm selling? And every time, and here's the thing, Adam, that I know that I feel super confident is, I believe, like, in my heart, I have 2 or 3 iterations of Jasmine Star. Like, I know that I refer to myself in third person, which is so annoying. But I think for the case of conversation, since this is audio, I feel like first iteration was like law school dropout, trying to figure out like where her life was going. Second iteration was starting a photography business. Third iteration was to empower business owners. And I think there's a 4th and 5th, perhaps even a 6th, if like God lets me live a long time, thing that I'm supposed to do. So I always feel like with each iteration, the year 1 will always be the same. Is, can I use this? Will people follow me? Will people invest? Will people join? Will they get my vision? Am I providing value? And then in year 7, in the photography business, it was, how do you reinvent yourself? Like, how do you stay relevant? Like, I always joke that like every time a shutter clicks, a photographer is born. So it's like when you're in year 7, Adam, that was a joke. You didn't laugh.
Sorry.
So,
I was like,
no, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. It's like, there's so many photographers. I was like, every time there's a trend, I was like, oh, here's another photographer. And I think that when the market becomes so saturated, you have to like really work hard. It's not like you can rest on your laurels. Like, you have to every single year be super conscious about building your brand, experiences, expanding your referral network. It's like a hustle. And so, year 7, Jasmine in photography would look back at year 1 and be like, just keep on plowing through. It's going to be hard, but it always stays a little bit hard due to the nature of what we do. So I don't know what year 7 Jasmine will look like in regards to this business, but the struggles will always be, how big of a risk am I willing to take? And that happens every year for every small business owner. And I think that taking calculated risks are the best thing you could do, and then staying committed, because it's when you teeter between 2 decisions is when you lose your step and you lose your vision. If you set your vision and say, this is where I'm going and this is what I want, and you believe it and you stick with it, from my experience, it will happen.
Totally. So going back, I didn't laugh at the joke just because it was so good. I was like, no, she's exactly right.
It's okay. Give me a hard time. People I really give a hard time to. It was just like, I'll be mean to you about not laughing at my jokes because we're like homies. But yeah, I just didn't want to be like all esoteric, like make it sound like I was trying to like drop some knowledge every time the shudder, no, it was like a joke. I was like tongue in cheek, but just wanted to clarify.
Totally. So the question for you and kind of these processes, and I knew a little bit of the law student story as well. Like, how did you, I just want to get real, like, how did you get over the fears that came with those transitions? Or even when you're in year 7 of just wedding photography, what would I like to do differently? Or I'd like to reinvent myself. Or the photographer who's maybe had a successful business and they say, you know what? I don't even like my own style anymore. I want to change. Like, how do you get over that fear, if you will?
Well,
Sorry, big question for you, Jasmine.
No. I love it. I read a quote this morning. I believe it was from Carlos Castaneda, and he had written that you have the choice between miserable or a great success. It takes just the amount of same of energy as either. And I think to myself, the same thing applies to failure. It takes just as much energy to worry about being a failure as it does working to be a success. And I think that every time I was faced with this really hard decision to reinvent myself, to pivot, to make a public declaration, to change my style, to change my branding, all of those things, if in my heart and in my mind, in my soul, all those 3 things aligned as a creative, then I knew that I can waste time second guessing it, or I can spend 100% of my energy executing on that thing. And there have been times, Adam, where I believed like, oh, this is it. And then I did it and I looked at it and it was like a hot mess. And I was like, was I wrong? Like, what happened? And that was part of getting me to the success. It was the reevaluation. It was the ability for me not to crumble. It was me looking at the situation and say, okay, I thought it was this, but guess what? It's not. But it was only by taking an action to make a hard, cognizant decision to say, I am moving forward. And then you work towards it. You get to the end result and say, oh my gosh, this is wrong. I need to try it over again. I need to do something different. But it was only the action of getting started and staying started until you can actually say, oh, that was just a middle point to get me to where I wanted to go. So we can waste time worrying about being a failure, but it will take the same amount of time for us to work towards being a success.
It reminds me of that, it's like a silly comic, and obviously the situation's more serious, but there's the guy that swims halfway across the ocean and then gets tired and swims back. And it's like, if you would just keep going, bro, it'd be the same. Like, because it's literally halfway.
I've never seen that. I need to see that. I'm going to Google it.
Yeah, put that in your PowerPoints and your keynotes. There you go. So I want to end this with just a few fun ones, because I know you're an avid reader and just consumer of content as much as producing as well. And, you take a lot of time to invest in yourself, even in the little ways like you talked about with yoga and your health and everything like that. So fun one is what book or books are you reading this year that have changed your life? And then secondly is what Netflix show are you binging, if any? And then 3 is what is your biggest goal for 2018?
Okay, so I was homeschooled and I don't know how to pay attention for very long, so you have to ask me these questions one at a time.
So the first one is just what book or books have you read this year that you've absolutely loved?
Well, I'm a big fan of fiction. So I really like The American Wife. That was like a really good one. And as far as business books go, I really enjoyed Crushing It by Gary Vaynerchuk. But anything Gary puts out, like I consume like religiously. He's like my pretend best friend. He just doesn't know it yet. I was like, oh, one day I'm going to build a business that you're going to invest in. Don't you worry. At least now we have it on the record, absolutely. Adam.
Hey, so, next time we see him, we can just be like, listen, so Jasmine over here, you got to watch. That's
I like how you inserted yourself into my story. I love it. So next time we see him, I'm going to tell him for
I'm
you.
just along for the ride. I'm just the Uber driver there. I've gotten to meet Gary actually before a long time ago, and he's the reason that I decided to pursue photography. And he was at an event that I was shooting, and it was the second Daily V episode ever, and D-Rock wasn't allowed in. And so it was just Gary in there in this kind of charity event, and I was shooting it. And I tweeted at him, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, Gary Vee is at this event. I'm fangirling." And he was like, "Hey, come say hi." And it was just the sweetest 5-minute conversation. Even though I'm a Patriots fan, we were able to chat, and it made it awesome. So yeah, I'm inserting myself in your story.
The best. I hear those stories, and I know he has he has a mixed rep. Some people can't stand him, some people really love him. But when I hear stories like that, he's just like a person of the people. And did you tell him you're a Patriots fan? Because he probably would not have tweeted back. He's like, "Hey, come and talk." He straight hates Patriot fans. So the fact that you talked to him,
you just politely put it in. You just kind of insert it here. Yeah, man, I shot the. So really quick question, even in between, just to get in there. You love reading fiction and nonfiction? Yeah?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I'm not a huge fiction person, but it's I feel like movies and fiction books are where the wonder and creativity come from. And it's all right, I need to start. But maybe not with American Wife. I don't know.
No, probably not. Probably not that one. But actually is a really good mix, because I think that she does a really great job. Is Elizabeth Gilbert wrote Big Magic, and it's not fiction, and yet it's not a business book. It's kind of closer to the segmentation of Stephen Pressfield's The War of Art. If you have, that is just between those two books. Now, I know Elizabeth Gilbert gets a little bit heady because she talks about how the muses visit your creativity, and so some people who are super business driven, they just think it's a little out there. But if you're a creative, you just get it. You keep on waiting for inspiration to arrive. That every time you approach a shoot, you're like, God, I hope this goes well. And she refers to that as the muses, the creativity gods who will occasionally visit. And Stephen Pressfield writes so brilliantly about this notion, and the notion of if you want inspiration to strike, well, you have to be working. That's it. So those books are just complete and total game changers. And I think that it's so often I get so caught up in doing the things that fiction allows me to turn my brain off and become creative in an entirely different way. And every month with my social media subscription site, I write and complete a full magazine for all of my users. And so I'm writing a ton. And so I think that fiction really hones my skills and sharpens my teeth in that regard. So it's been completely beneficial.
Incredible. That's awesome. Second question is, are you watching any TV shows that you absolutely love right now?
I'm going to be so annoying.
Be that person.
I'm not so into, I just feel there's so much to do, and there's so many, I'm not a TV watcher all that much. I'm not. I do enjoy, oh my God, I'm such a nerd. I don't even know what shows I'm watching. I'm not so much a consumer of television.
Yeah, totally.
I'm not.
You should start saying YouTube channel. What YouTube channel are you watching right now?
I know. It should be what Instagram story are you watching? I view and use social media in the same time people spend watching television shows. I'm just not there anymore. I'm really 100% on social.
And then what is last question for Jasmine on the Bearded Tog is, what is your biggest goal for 2018?
Is to create, gosh, it's so boring. It's to create more systems in my business. I want to build a life. I want to build a business that serves my life. I don't want to build my life to serve my business. And as you kind of like pivot and start something new, you wear all the hats all the time. And you can continue doing that unless you take the time to build out a system, to hire people, to get help, to get organized, so that I can take a step back and say, what do I want to do? How do I want to live my dream life and not have to be responsible for the minutia of the daily tasks in my life and my business? So the end of 2018 is to have a fully dialed in system for Social Curator, and that's to have shoot days designated, and that's to build a team around me who really gets my vision and knows how to take my business to the next level in 2019.
Awesome. Jasmine, thank you so much for coming on the Bearded Tog. It's been an absolute pleasure. Where is the best place for people to find you?
On all forms of social media, at Jasmine Star and at JasmineStar.com.
Guys, we are just killing it on the Bearded Tog. I know I'm a biased person because I am that person, but man, I mean, we've had Jeremy Cowart, Ben Heish, Christy Odom, Jasmine Star, 4 episodes in a row where we are just punching you in the face. I am like so excited right now after that episode. Jasmine has been a huge influence on my life since day one. And she's just incredible. And the fact that she's killing it now at a second thing. And we talk about that a lot on the show because I feel like people need to transition from something to photography or photography to something else or whatever. Like, this is it, guys. Like, this is the episode. Just dive in, go for it. Your back is against the wall and don't look back. Like, I absolutely love that. I would love if you would follow the Bearded Tog on Instagram. It's just our show notes, but it's a great place for conversation. At the Bearded Tog on Instagram. Let me know what you thought of this episode. So when you're listening, there's a photo of Jasmine Star and her show notes there. Let me know what you thought of this episode. I would love to have her back on. Thank you so much, guys, for listening. Have a wonderful day. Keep being awesome.